Yo, he goes slow. He ain't no fool with that sonic speed. He just always cool.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
No fool. Come on, just show me what you got. Going fast is cool, going slow is not.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
No fool. Wild game, dude. 7 danger zones. You and Sonic speed through, or you are toast, man.
Sonic the Hedgehog, the hot new game from Genesis Games. Systems and games sold separately.
No fool.
Greetings everyone old and new, welcome to Haseo Reviews. I know I said that my next video would be Mega Man 4 and 5, but I've kinda hit a wall with that one, and given that this year just so happens to be a certain Sega mascot's 30th anniversary, I decided to put that video on the back burner and shift my focus to the other cool blue hero, Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog, Sega's second attempt at competing with Nintendo's Super Mario franchise and establishing their own iconic mascot. Younger generations may be surprised to hear that Sonic wasn't always Sega's mascot, though, being preceded for a few years by Alex Kidd, who never really found that mass market appeal Sega desperately needed. After the launch of Sega's 16-bit console, the Sega Genesis, or Mega Drive in every region except North America, an internal contest was held among Sega staff to design a new mascot for the company. Many designs were created, including this cartoon Teddy Roosevelt in pajamas, a rabbit reminiscent of the old Oswald the Lucky Rabbit cartoons that grabbed and threw objects with his ears, and the eventual winner, a speedy hedgehog named Mr. Needlemouse, designed by Naoto Oshima. Sega presumably wanted the game to actually sell, however, so Mr. Needlemouse was given a slight redesign with clothing based on Santa Claus and Michael Jackson, a personality inspired by Bill Clinton, and colors taken from Sega's logo, and to cap it off, a new name that better reflects what the character's MO was: Sonic the Hedgehog. The Teddy Roosevelt submission was also reused for the game's main antagonist, Dr. Eggman, or Dr. Ivo Robotnik in Western territories. A team was assembled led by main programmer Yuji Naka, and the now infamous development studio Sonic Team was born, releasing Sonic the Hedgehog on June 23rd, 1991. The plot for this one is just as simple as you'd expect for an early 90s 2D platformer. Dr. Robotnik is turning all the animals of South Island into evil robots to take over the world. Sonic has to stop him. Upon booting up the game, you're presented with a short title screen, which right off the bat shows Sonic's snarky attitude. Press start and you're instantly thrown into the first level, Green Hill Zone, Act 1. Each zone has its own unique theme and is broken up into 3 acts, with a boss fight against Dr. Robotnik at the end of Act 3. Green Hill is light on enemies and serves as a sort of tutorial area for the player to learn how the game works. Sonic can run fast, gradually picking up speed as he moves, roll into a ball to attack enemies, break certain destructible walls, and jump on enemies as an alternate way of defeating them, as well as an easy way to break power-up monitors, which contain either a shield that gives Sonic an extra hit, speed-up shoes that temporarily increase his speed, extra lives, or temporary invincibility. Littered throughout each level are gold rings. Collecting rings not only increases your score at the end of the level, but acts as extra hit points for Sonic. Getting hit with 0 rings instantly kills Sonic, but as long as you have at least 1 ring, getting hit will instead make him drop the rings he's carrying, which the player can then scramble to pick up. Collecting 100 rings rewards the player with an extra life, and finishing the stage with at least 50 rings makes a giant ring appear. Jumping into it teleports Sonic to one of 6 special stages, where Sonic has to maneuver around an automatically rotating maze to collect one of the 6 Chaos Emeralds without touching one of the deceptively named gold tiles. Collecting 50 rings in one of these special stages rewards the player with a continue, allowing the player to keep playing from the last stage they game overed in after losing all their lives, as opposed to being sent back to the title screen. Green Hill Zone does a good job at introducing the player to nearly everything they'll need to learn in order to beat the game, but unfortunately, as we'll soon learn, the game sort of plays its trump card early, as Green Hill is the only zone in the game that doesn't have some sort of major flaw that makes the game a slog to play through. There are multiple pathways to travel through, teaching the player that playing well not only rewards the player with high speeds, but allows the player to take the upper, often shorter paths through the stage, which rewards you with a bigger time bonus at the end, while playing sloppily forces the player to take the lower path that, while often easier to get through, takes longer. Act 2 also, albeit unintentionally, introduces the player to one of my major gripes with this game, the infamous spike bug. Due to an error in the original Sonic the Hedgehog's programming, spike traps ignore Sonic's post-hit invincibility entirely, and can kill him over and over in one quick combo if the player is unfortunate enough to touch a spike. It's incredibly infuriating because lower paths of each stage are often filled with spike traps, making platforming across these sections way more anxiety-inducing than they need to be. At the end of Act 3, we come across our first boss fight with Dr. Robotnik, a swinging ball and chain attached to Robotnik's Egomatic hovercraft. The ball is easy to avoid simply by jumping over it, and you can score plenty of free hits on Robotnik as he flies into the arena. Defeating him causes him to flee, allowing Sonic to break open a capsule containing animals that were about to be roboticized, ending the zone. The following zones of the game, as I alluded to before, massively fluctuate in quality. Marble Zone, the second zone, is designed in a way that more often than not prevents Sonic from reaching any type of high speed, instead requiring precision platforming over pits of lava or standing around waiting for these spike trap platforms to drop so you can jump on them. Zone 3, Spring Yard Zone, is a mess of seemingly randomly placed springs and bumpers that bounce Sonic all over the place, coupled with massive stretches of bottomless pits. Labyrinth Zone is the absolute nadir of the game's quality, mostly taking place underwater, where Sonic not only moves slower, but has a limited supply of air, which can only be replenished by either jumping to the surface or making contact with air bubbles. However, air bubbles take way too long to spawn, which led to many instances of me getting a game over because I ran out of air while waiting for the game to decide to give me an air bubble. There's also this section where if you don't jump on the blocks before the water rises, then as far as I can tell, you're completely trapped and have no choice but to waste a life. Starlight Zone isn't nearly as frustrating or poorly designed as the previous 3 zones, but it isn't very memorable. I guess there's these fans that don't contribute anything to the game's mechanics, these stairs that lower when you touch them, and these bomb enemies that can't be killed in any regular way, once again blindsiding the player with design choices that spin the face of what the beginning of the game taught them, but otherwise I often forget that Starlight Zone even exists. Next up is Scrap Brain Zone, Dr. Robotnik's fortress. This zone has a pretty confusing layout in my opinion, with certain paths that are just objectively worse to take than the straight left to right one, and the introduction of periodically disappearing platforms straight out of Mega Man, but without the sound cue to let you know that they're appearing. The third act starts with a cutscene that leads into an obvious retread of Labyrinth Zone, but with no boss at the end. Completing it leads straight into the aptly named Final Zone, which is a one-act showdown with Dr. Robotnik. There are no rings in this stage, so the player has to dodge all of Dr. Robotnik's attacks and strike at the correct moment to avoid instant death. Defeating Robotnik here leads to the end of the game, which is honestly nothing special. It just shows Sonic running through Green Hell again. It's slightly altered if you collected all the Chaos Emeralds, but not in any way that makes going out of your way to collect them worth the hassle. The original Sonic the Hedgehog sold well at the time, but nearly 30 years later, I can't recommend this one as a starting point for newcomers. While the first handful of levels is good enough, everything after that either nosedives in quality or is so bland that it doesn't stay in my memory. While the game was marketed on its high-speed platforming, there isn't actually much of that on display here, either due to level design that prevents it, cheap enemy placement, or gotcha traps that punish you for trying to have fun with Sonic's high speeds. Just like the original Mega Man, Sonic the Hedgehog suffers in retrospect from first game syndrome, where the developers hadn't figured out yet what works and what doesn't. However, that only means that the sequels have nowhere to go but up. But will Sonic 2 reach those lofty ambitions? Tune in next time to find out. I'm Haseo, and I'll see you in the next one. Laters.